Hey, my name's Liam Carter. I'm 27, and for the past 3 years, I've been grinding away at Hartwell and Associates, a mid-sized financial consulting firm in the heart of Manhattan. It's one of those places where the lobby gleams with polished marble and the elevators are always packed with people in sharp suits. But for someone like me, it's just a job. I show up early, stay late if needed, and keep my head down. I'm not the guy who speaks up in meetings or networks at happy hours. I'm the one who listens, takes notes, and makes sure the details don't slip through the cracks. If you asked my colleagues about me, they'd probably say I'm reliable but forgettable, part of the background noise in a company full of ambitious climbers. My life outside work isn't much more exciting. I rent a cramped one-bedroom in Brooklyn, the kind with thin walls and a view of a brick alley. Weekends are for catching up on sleep, maybe grabbing a beer with a couple of buddies from college, or driving out to my mom's place in the suburbs of New Jersey. She's always asking when I'm going to settle down, find a girlfriend, or at least aim for a promotion. But I've never been one to chase the spotlight. Growing up, I was the quiet kid in class, the one who got good grades but never raised his hand. College was more of the same, studying finance at NYU on scholarships, working part-time jobs to cover the rest, and avoiding the party scene. I've always figured that hard work would speak for itself eventually. That morning, 3 days before everything changed, I was nursing a lukewarm coffee in our conference room, scrolling through emails on my phone while waiting for the weekly team meeting to start. The room was buzzing with the usual low chatter, people complaining about deadlines or sharing weekend stories. I tuned it out, focusing on a spreadsheet I'd been tweaking for the Henderson project, a big potential client deal involving complex financial restructuring for a Chicago-based manufacturing firm. The door swung open abruptly and in walked Clara Mitchell, our senior manager. At 34, she's a legend at Hartwell, the youngest person ever to hit her level, sharp as a tack and unflinchingly decisive. She's single as far as anyone knows, and her reputation precedes her. No small talk, no wasted words, always in tailored dark suits that make her look like she's ready for a boardroom battle. I've admired her from afar. Her presentations are flawless, and she's got this way of cutting through bullshit that commands respect. But we've barely interacted beyond the occasional nod in the hallway or my brief status updates in group emails. She didn't waste time on greetings. Dropping a thick folder onto the table, she scanned the room with those intense blue eyes. Henderson Project, 3-day trip to Chicago starting tomorrow night. I need someone to join me. The room went quiet. Richard Harlan, our finance department head, a grizzled veteran in his 50s with a perpetual frown and impeccably pressed gray suits, leaned forward immediately. If you need support, Clara, I'd be happy to step in myself. Or I can assign one of my senior analysts, someone with the experience to handle the high-stakes negotiations. Clara didn't even glance at him. Her gaze landed on me, steady and unreadable. I've already decided. Liam Carter will accompany me. A ripple of surprise went through the room. I felt my face heat up as heads turned my way. Me? I'd contributed some analysis to the prelims, sure, but nothing groundbreaking. Richard's eyebrows shot up. Liam? With all due respect, Clara, he's still green. Barely 3 years in, no major deals under his belt. We can't risk fumbling this one. She finally turned to him, her voice calm but edged like steel. I'm selecting based on actual capability, Richard. Liam's work on the prelims was thorough, and he's asked the right questions in our prep sessions, ones no one else thought to raise. That's what we need for Henderson, precision and fresh perspective, not just tenure. Richard opened his mouth to argue, but Clara raised a hand, ending the discussion. The meeting shifted to other topics, but the tension lingered. As we filed out, I caught sidelong glances from my coworkers, some curious, others skeptical. Even Jake, the guy I sometimes grabbed coffee with, shot me a look that said, "What the hell just happened?" Clara caught me at the door, handing over the folder. Review the financial projections and contingency plans in detail. Flights at 10 p.m. tomorrow. I don't tolerate delays. She strode off without another word. Back at my desk, I flipped through the pages, my mind racing. Why me? I'd always been the underdog, the one overlooked in promotions. Now here I was, publicly chosen over veterans like Richard. Part of me swelled with pride. This could be my break. But doubt crept in. What if I screwed up? What if Richard was right and I wasn't ready? That afternoon blurred into a frenzy of preparation. I double-checked every figure, rehearsed potential questions from the Henderson team, and even ran through mock negotiations in my head. By evening, I was exhausted but wired. Dinner was a quick sandwich at my desk, and when my mom called to check in, I kept it vague. Big project coming up, might be busy. No need to worry her yet. Lying in bed that night, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily, sleep evaded me. My thoughts looped. The stares in the meeting, Richard's condescension, Clara's unwavering confidence in me. What if this trip was a test I wasn't prepared for? Success could change everything, prove I belonged. Failure? It might confirm every insecurity I'd buried. Eventually, I drifted off, suitcase packed by the door, ready for whatever came next. Little did I know, the real challenge wouldn't be the deal. It would be the storm, waiting in Chicago. The flight out of JFK was supposed to be straightforward. A quick hop to Chicago, landing around midnight. Plenty of time to grab a hotel and prep for the morning meeting. But nothing about that day felt straightforward. As I wheeled my carry-on through the terminal, the first delay announcement crackled over the speakers. Weather issues in the Midwest, thunderstorms rolling in hard. I spotted Clara at the gate, already seated with her laptop open, typing furiously. She glanced up as I approached, nodding curtly. Gate change. We're at C12 now, delays expected. We relocated without much talk. The waiting area was crowded with frustrated passengers, business types pacing with phones pressed to their ears, families wrangling kids. Clara and I found seats across from each other. She dove back into her emails, her fingers flying across the keys. I pulled out my notes, reviewing the financial contingencies for the umpteenth time, but my mind wandered. The public selection in the meeting still stung. The way Richard had dismissed me like I was some intern. And Clara's confidence in me? It felt like a lifeline, but one I wasn't sure I deserved. Hours ticked by. The storm updates kept coming. First a 30-minute pushback, then an hour, then indefinite. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, rain lashed against the glass, lightning flashing in the distance. Clara made a few calls, her voice low and authoritative, rescheduling logistics with the Henderson team. I offered to grab coffees from a nearby kiosk, black for her, as I'd overheard in a meeting once. She accepted with a brief, "Thanks." And we sipped in silence, the bitter brew doing little to ease the growing tension. By 9 p.m., the board finally updated. Takeoff in 45 minutes. Relief washed over the gate, but Clara's expression remained neutral. "Stay sharp," she said as we boarded. The flight itself was turbulent, the plane dipping through pockets of rough air, but we landed in Chicago around 1 a.m. Hours late, the city shrouded in sheets of rain. O'Hare was a ghost town at that hour, escalators humming emptily. We grabbed our bags and headed out, the wind whipping water sideways as we hailed a cab. The driver eyed us sympathetically. "Bad night for travel. Hotels are packed. Conventions in the storm." Clara pulled out her phone, scrolling through booking apps. I did the same. One by one, options fell through, sold out, no availability, rates jacked sky high. "Try Vantage near the airport," she suggested. I called. After a hold, the clerk confirmed. "Only one room left, ma'am. King bed, but we can send up extra blankets for the couch." Clara didn't hesitate. "Book it." The cab sloshed through flooded streets, wipers thumping rhythmically. We arrived at the Vantage, a mid-tier chain hotel, its neon sign flickering in the downpour. The lobby was dim, the night clerk yawning as he handed over the key card. "Room 412, elevators to the left. Sorry about the mix-up, storm's got everyone scrambling." The room was smaller than I'd imagined. Beige walls with faded floral prints, a queen bed dominating the space, a worn armchair in the corner instead of a full sofa, and a tiny bathroom with fluorescent lighting. Rain hammered the window, the AC humming faintly. Clara hung her coat on the hook, shaking off droplets. "You can take the bathroom first," she said, already opening her laptop on the desk. I nodded, grabbing my toiletry kit, feeling awkward as I closed the door behind me. The hot water helped ease the travel grime, but my reflection in the mirror looked haggard, bags under my eyes from the sleepless night before. What was I doing here? This wasn't just a business trip anymore, it felt personal, exposed. I changed into sweats and a t-shirt, emerging to find Clara still typing. "All yours," I muttered, eyeing the armchair. It looked uncomfortable, but I'd make do. I spread out my notes on the floor, pretending to review, though my focus was shot. Clara disappeared into the bathroom, the shower running for what felt like ages. When she came out, she was in yoga pants and a loose sweater, her hair damp and loose, less the powerhouse exec, more human. She glanced at my setup. "That chair's not going to cut it. The bed's big enough. Just stay on your side." My face flushed. "I don't want to impose." "It's fine, Liam. We're adults. Get some rest. We need to be sharp tomorrow." She climbed under the covers on the left, propping pillows to work on her tablet. I hesitated, then grabbed a pillow and slid in on the right, turning my back to her, staring at the wall. The mattress dipped slightly, the sheets cool. Sleep seemed impossible. The storm raged outside, wind howling, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. My mind raced. The meeting tomorrow, the projections I might flub, the way Clara had defended me back in New York. Why me? Finally, her voice cut through the dark, soft but clear. "Liam, you awake?" "Yeah," I whispered, not turning. A pause. "Do you know why I picked you for this?" I rolled over slightly, keeping distance. "Honestly, no. I figured it was because of my work on the prelims, but Richard's right, I'm not the obvious choice." She set her tablet aside, the screen's glow casting shadows on her face. "It's more than that. In meetings, you're the only one who doesn't look at me like I'm some untouchable authority. You ask real questions, ones that show you're thinking, not just performing. It's been a long time since someone treated me like a person, not a title." I propped up on an elbow, surprised. "I guess I don't see the point in pretending. But you seem so put together, like nothing rattles you." She laughed quietly, a low, almost weary sound. "That's the armor. Grew up with divorced parents. Dad left when I was 8, Mom worked 2 jobs. Home was silent, empty. I learned early, show weakness and people walk away. Climb the ladder by being unbreakable. But up here, it's lonely. Trust is a luxury I can't afford." Her words hung in the air, vulnerable in a way I'd never imagined. I shared my own story. Quiet kid in school, overlooked in groups, college years of isolation after friends ditched me for being too different. "I've always felt like an outsider," I admitted. "Work's the same, reliable but invisible." Clara shifted closer, not touching, but the space between us felt charged. "I chose you because I wanted to try trusting without calculation. Maybe it's a risk, but that night in the rain, it feels right." We talked more about fears, past failures, the weight of expectations. At one point, she passed me a water bottle from the nightstand, our fingers brushing accidentally, a spark of warmth in the cold room. No lines crossed, no sudden confessions, just raw honesty, eye contact that lingered, pulling us from our shells. As the storm eased outside, exhaustion finally claimed us, the shared vulnerability lingering like a promise until morning. The alarm on my phone blared at 6:30 a.m., pulling me from a shallow sleep. My body ached from the unfamiliar bed, but my mind felt clearer than it had in days, sharper, almost energized. The storm had passed sometime in the night, leaving behind a gray drizzle pattering against the window. I sat up slowly, glancing over at Clara's side. She was already up, dressed in a crisp navy suit, her hair pulled back into a neat bun. The vulnerability from last night, the shared stories, the quiet admissions, seemed like a distant echo. She looked every bit the senior manager again, composed, distant, her tablet in hand as she reviewed notes. "Morning," I said, rubbing my eyes. "Slept okay?" "Well enough," she replied without looking up. "We leave in 45 minutes. Grab breakfast downstairs if you want. I'll meet you in the lobby." The shift in her tone was subtle but unmistakable, like a door clicking shut. I nodded, gathering my things and heading to the bathroom. Under the shower, hot water streaming over me, I replayed the conversation from hours before. Her words about trust, about feeling seen as a person, it had felt real. But now, in the harsh morning light, I wondered if I'd imagined the connection. Maybe it was just exhaustion talking, a momentary crack in her armor. By the time I dressed and packed, she was ready at the door, coat on, briefcase in hand. No mention of the night, no lingering glance. We checked out in silence, the clerk wishing us a safe trip as we stepped into the damp Chicago air. Breakfast was a quick affair at the hotel's buffet. Bagels and fruit for me, yogurt and coffee for her. She scanned headlines on her phone while we ate, occasionally firing off questions about the agenda. Double-check the Q and A on the risk assessments, she said between bites. Henderson's CFO is sharp, he'll probe for weaknesses. I assured her I had it covered, but the easy rapport from the dark hours felt gone. We were back to business, and I told myself that's how it should be. This was a work trip after all, not some personal retreat. The cab ride to Henderson's downtown offices was short but tense, traffic sluggish in the post-storm haze. Their building loomed like a glass monolith, all sleek lines and reflective windows. We were ushered into a spacious conference room on the 20th floor, overlooking the foggy skyline. The Henderson team was already there, 5 execs in tailored attire led by their CEO, a no-nonsense woman named Elena Vasquez, and the CFO, Mark Riley, whom Clara had warned me about. Handshakes all around, small talk about the weather, then down to brass tacks. Clara took the lead, her presentation seamless as always. She outlined the project's scope, restructuring their debt portfolio, optimizing cash flow for expansion, with charts and projections that painted a compelling picture. The room leaned in, nodding along. Then she transitioned smoothly. For the financial modeling and contingencies, I'll hand it over to Liam Carter, our lead analyst on this. All eyes on me. My heart pounded, but something had shifted overnight. The doubts that had kept me awake back in New York felt muted now. I stood, clicking to my slides, and dove in. Building on Clara's overview, let's break down the projections, starting with the baseline scenario. Assuming a 5% growth in your Midwest operations, we forecast a 12% ROI within 18 months, factoring in tax incentives from the recent state reforms. I walked them through the numbers, highlighting sensitivities, interest rate fluctuations, supply chain risks, and how our contingencies mitigated them. Riley fired questions rapid fire. What if rates spike to 7%? How does that impact the debt service coverage? I didn't falter. In that case, we'd trigger the swap to fixed-rate instruments outlined on slide 14, maintaining coverage above 1.5 times. We've modeled it here. See the stress test results. Clara caught my eye once, a subtle nod of approval. We tag-teamed effortlessly. When Vasquez asked about integration timelines, I deferred to her expertise, and she built on my data points. It felt like a rhythm, unspoken but effective. By the end, the room was buzzing with agreement. Vasquez extended her hand. Impressive work. Let's get the contracts drawn up. We shook on it, the deal sealed. Adrenaline surged through me as we packed up. My first major close, and it had gone flawlessly. In the elevator down, Clara turned to me. Well done, Liam. That was solid. Back in New York, I'll put in the word for you on the special projects team. Thanks, I said, grinning despite myself. Couldn't have done it without your lead. I hesitated, the words from last night bubbling up. About what we talked about. Last night? She cut me off gently, her expression neutral. Focus on the win. We've got a flight to catch. The cab back to the airport was quiet, her typing resuming. I wanted to push, to ask if that shared moment meant anything, but her walls were up. Professional, impenetrable. Maybe it had been a one-off, a storm-induced lapse. The return flight was smoother, no delays this time. We landed in New York by evening, parting with a quick, "See you Monday" at baggage claim. I took the subway home, the high from the deal fading into exhaustion. That weekend, I replayed it all. The meeting triumph, but also the intimacy of the hotel room. I half expected a message from her, something casual, a sign that the barrier had cracked for good. But my phone stayed silent. Monday morning hit like a reset button. Back at the office, congratulations trickled in from the team. Emails praising the Henderson close, a pat on the back from Jake. But Clara? She was all business. In the hallway, she nodded briskly, no eye contact beyond the necessary. During the debrief meeting, she commended the team's prep without singling me out. Emails from her were concise. Action items, follow-ups, nothing personal. By midweek, the pattern was clear. No smiles in the elevator, no casual chats by the coffee machine. It was as if Chicago hadn't happened, or at least the parts that mattered beyond the deal. I tried to brush it off, focusing on my workload, but disappointment gnawed at me. We'd shared something real, hadn't we? Or was I reading too much into it? The gap between us, her position, her experience, the invisible hierarchy, felt wider than ever. Despite the crack we'd glimpsed, the walls were rebuilt. Stronger, perhaps. And as the days dragged on, I wondered if that night had been a fluke, a fleeting connection doomed to fade in the fluorescent lights of the office. The glow from the Henderson deal carried me through the rest of that week, but by the time Monday rolled around, reality set in like a fog over the Hudson. I arrived at the office early, as usual, slipping into my cubicle with a fresh coffee and a stack of follow-up reports. The congratulations had tapered off. A few more emails trickled in, praising the close, but the buzz faded fast in a place like Hartwell, where the next big project always loomed. I dove into my tasks, updating spreadsheets and prepping for a team huddle, telling myself the trip had been a success. Professionally, at least. But Clara, she was a ghost in the hallways. I'd spot her in passing, striding toward the elevators in her signature dark blazer, phone in hand, or leading a briefing in the glass-walled conference room. Our eyes met once during a floor-wide update, but she looked away quickly, her expression neutral, as if Chicago had never happened. No follow-up on her promise to recommend me for special projects. No casual check-in. Just the occasional email. Review attached Q2 forecasts. Feedback by EOD. It stung more than I expected. That night in the hotel, the raw honesty, the shared vulnerabilities, had felt like a bridge between us. Now it seemed like she'd dismantled it brick by brick. I tried to shake it off. Maybe she was just busy. The Henderson wrap-up was demanding, after all. Or perhaps it was intentional, keeping distance to maintain professionalism. Either way, I focused on proving myself. By midweek, I volunteered for an extra analysis on a side deal, staying late to crunch numbers. Jake swung by my desk one evening as I packed up. "Hey man, heard about the Chicago win. Solid. Beers to celebrate?" "Sure," I said, forcing a smile. "Soon." But inside, doubt crept in. Had I misread everything? Was that connection just a product of exhaustion and isolation? The first real crack showed up Thursday morning. I was in the break room pouring a refill when I overheard whispers from two analysts near the vending machine. "Yeah, 1 room, 3 nights. Convenient storm, right?" One chuckled. "Explains the fast track. A kid's got skill or something." They didn't see me, but the words hit like a gut punch. I froze, coffee sloshing in my cup. Tin John? About us? It spread like wildfire. By lunch, the stares were unmistakable. Colleagues glancing up from their screens as I walked by, conversations dipping to murmurs. An anonymous email circulated in the finance chat. "Favoritism alert? Junior analyst gets prime gig after stormy trip with boss." Attached was a scanned hotel receipt. How the hell did they get that? Highlighting the single room booking. Richard's handiwork, no doubt. He'd been salty since the meeting where Clara shut him down, and now he was stirring the pot, whispering in ears, fueling the narrative that my selection wasn't merit-based. The office felt smaller, suffocating. In the afternoon team sync, I presented my updates, but the room's energy was off. Side glances, awkward silences. Clara ran the meeting as usual, praising the group's progress without specifics. Afterward, she pulled me aside briefly in the hall. "Good work on the addendums, keep it up." No mention of the rumors, no eye contact that lingered. It was like she was oblivious, or choosing to ignore it. But I couldn't. By Friday, the pressure built to a head. My inbox filled with passive-aggressive notes. "Congrats on the special assignment." Even Jake texted, "Heard some BS floating around. You good?" I replied vaguely, but inside anger simmered. I'd earned that spot, my prelim work, the Chicago pitch. Yet here I was reduced to gossip fodder. That night, alone in my apartment, I paced the living room, replaying it all. The vulnerability we'd shared in that hotel room now felt like a liability. Had opening up been a mistake? Did she regret it? The following week, it escalated. During a cross-department briefing, Richard made a snide comment in passing. Some of us rely on experience, not overnight miracles. Laughter rippled, eyes darting my way. Clara shot him a look but said nothing. Later, in her office for a one-on-one, I couldn't hold back. Clara, about the rumors? She cut in, voice even. Ignore them. Focus on deliverables. The Henderson follow-through is priority. But it's affecting everything, I pressed, my frustration bubbling over. People think I got the trip because, well, you know. And now, with your recommendation hanging, her expression hardened slightly. My decisions stand on merit. If you can't handle office politics, that's on you. She paused, softening a fraction. Liam, what happened in Chicago? It was a moment. We moved forward. I left her office deflated, the walls between us feeling thicker than ever. The trust we'd glimpsed, buried under layers of hierarchy and caution. Days blurred, more whispers, more isolation. I threw myself into work, but the doubt festered. Was our connection real or just an illusion shattered by the return to reality? As the week ended, I wondered if bridging that gap had been impossible from the start, the professional divide too wide to cross without consequences. The weekend after that tense one-on-one with Clara dragged on like a slow-motion replay of every doubt I'd ever harbored. I spent Saturday holed up in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying the rumors, the stares, the way her walls had snapped back into place. Sunday was no better. A half-hearted jog in Prospect Park, followed by mindless scrolling through work emails that only amplified the isolation. By Monday, I braced for the worst, arriving at the office with a knot in my stomach. The whispers had evolved into outright avoidance. Colleagues who'd once shared casual chit-chat now nodded curtly and hurried past. The hammer fell mid-morning. An email from HR. Urgent meeting with the board. 11 a.m. sharp. My heart sank. This wasn't a routine check-in. It was the culmination of Richard's smear campaign. I gathered my notes from the Henderson project, proof of my contributions if it even mattered, and headed to the executive floor. The boardroom was stark. A long mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling streets below, and a lineup of stern faces. The chairman, Mr. Ellis, a silver-haired veteran in a pinstripe suit, sat at the head. Richard was there, smirking subtly, flanked by a couple of other department heads. No sign of Clara. Ellis wasted no time. Mr. Carter, we're here to address serious allegations. Anonymous reports suggest impropriety during the Chicago trip. Shared accommodations leading to favoritism in assignments and promotions. We've seen the hotel records, the emails. Care to explain? I stood, my voice steadier than I felt. Sir, the storm caused the booking issue. One room was all that was available. Nothing inappropriate occurred. My selection for the trip was based on my prelim work, and the Henderson Close speaks for itself. If there's doubt about my merit, review the deliverables. I'm not here because of any personal connection. Richard leaned forward, his tone dripping with condescension. Come on, Liam. A junior analyst leapfrogging veterans, convenient timing. We've got stakeholders questioning the firm's integrity. The room murmured agreement. Ellis steepled his fingers. These claims, if unsubstantiated, are damaging, but if true... The door opened then, and Clara strode in, her presence cutting through the tension like a knife. She was in full armor, tailored black suit, expression unreadable. Gentlemen, if we're discussing integrity, let's do it properly. I demand a full internal audit. Every email, expense report, and decision tied to the Henderson project. If there's evidence of bias, I'll resign immediately. Ellis raised an eyebrow. Clara, you're aware this implicates you directly. Absolutely, she said, meeting his gaze. My choices stand on results. Liam's analysis was key to the deal. Check the metrics. Those rumors? Baseless attacks from someone threatened by change. Her eyes flicked to Richard, who shifted uncomfortably. The board agreed to the audit, tasking the compliance team with a rush review. The meeting adjourned, but the air lingered heavy. Richard shot me a glare as he left. Clara didn't acknowledge me at all, sweeping out with Ellis for a private word. I returned to my desk numb, the office grapevine already ablaze with news of the confrontation. The next 2 weeks were a grind. The audit dragged on. Interviews, document pulls, endless scrutiny. Whispers intensified. He's done for. She's protecting her pet project. I kept my head down, delivering flawless reports, but the isolation deepened. Jake pulled me aside one day in the stairwell. Dude, this is messed up. You holding up? Barely, I admitted. It's like everything from Chicago got twisted. He clapped my shoulder. Hang in. Truth wins out, usually. Clara remained distant. No meetings, no updates. Her office door stayed closed, her emails strictly procedural. I wondered if she regretted defending me or if the vulnerability we'd shared had made this fallout even harder. The gap between us felt insurmountable now. Her as the powerhouse fighting for her reputation, me as the junior caught in the crossfire. Finally, the audit report dropped via company-wide memo. No evidence of misconduct. The Henderson project was hailed as a model of efficiency, my contributions explicitly noted. The rumors? Traced back to Richard's anonymous emails, he was placed on probation, forced to issue a public apology in the next all hands. Relief flooded me as congratulations poured in again, this time genuine. Knew you had it, Jake texted. But the real shift came that afternoon. Clara summoned me to her office. She looked composed, but there was a weariness in her eyes I hadn't seen since the hotel. The board's cleared us. Your promotion to lead on the special projects team is approved, effective next quarter. Thanks, I said, lingering in the doorway, for standing up in there. I didn't expect... She cut me off, but softer this time. You earned it, Liam. Chicago wasn't just the deal, it was a reminder, but we keep moving forward. No elaboration on us, no bridge rebuilt. The walls were there, perhaps thinner, but still standing. As I left, I realized the trip had changed me. Proving my worth, yes, but also highlighting the chasm of position and experience. Our connection lingered as a what-if, buried under the demands of the job, leaving me to wonder if true closeness was ever possible in this corporate maze.